Letitia Stevenson from Yonder, and we're going to be talking about how to collect and what to do with first-party data. So looking forward to delving into this topic to set us all up for the long weekend, which is going to be great. So as a reminder for all you folks out there that have a small business, if you have offers for this weekend, because it's a kind of a big weekend, right? You can pop those offers up on our Facebook community page and share that with the whole community so people know that they can shop with you. So do put them up there on the community page, get your name out there, use us to build you. That's what we're here for. And then if you've got questions for Letitia or for myself, please drop them in the chat function and the Q&A function or the comment section, depending on what platform you're on. Even if you're on the Facebook platform or LinkedIn or YouTube, do drop your questions in there because I am checking it throughout the session. I will pull them through for you because I can see you watching. But yeah, you can engage with us. So thanks, Letitia. Thanks so much for joining us here on Digital Boost.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm just going to do this again, share my screen. Hopefully it's working, Anna-Marie.
It is. Looks good.
Yes. Good. I'm on a new setup today, guys. So you just have to bear with me if I disappear. Thanks for having me today. I'm super excited to be talking about first-party data, and thanks to Digital Boost for having me again. Today, what am I doing? Yep. Today, I really wanted to give you some actionable ideas that you can go away and implement in your business with regards to collecting and using first-party data. But before I dive straight into it, I'm going to just let you know exactly what we're sort of going to cover. So we're going to cover what is first-party data, ways that you can collect it, and then ideas on how to use it. So how can you actually make it usable for your business and grow it? Because it's all right just collecting it and having it all there, but it's actually useless if you don't use it. So please use it. Right, so before I dive in, I just wanted to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about me and why I'm talking on this topic today. My name's Letitia and I live in Taranaki, New Zealand. It's a nice sunny day here today. And I'm one of the founders and owners of a software business called Yonder HQ. And at Yonder, my role involves sales as well as marketing and customer success and management. Now, if you're wondering what Yonder does and what we're about, Yonder is a marketing platform that helps businesses to automate business processes and gather more first-party data, customer database, basically. So within our marketing platform, users have access to a range of tools that help boost their sales or website conversions, as well as supporting their marketing and development teams. So Yonder's set of features include like live chat widgets or AI chatbots, like what's on the screen, customer surveys, review gathering, review widgets, website quizzes that offer personalized recommendations, as well as review management and data analysis. So we do a bunch of things and we wrap them up into a beautiful package and platform and dashboard that makes things easier for you. The main industries that we use and work with and our main one is tourism, such as accommodation, activity providers, and attractions. But we're also used by professional services such as hairdressers, beauty salons, and professional services such as lawyers and accountants. So our software works for tradies as well as like plumbers and electricians. And we work with a bunch of marketing agencies who use our software when they build websites for their clients as well. So yeah, that's what I'm about. And so we're just going to dive straight into it. My computer's all over the place, so I'm just making sure that I'm clicking the right buttons. So I wanted to start today with a reminder of, I know I said it's about how to collect and what to do with, but a reminder of what first-party data is. And basically it's the information that you collect directly from your audience and customers. So it can include data from behaviors or actions or interests, demonstrated across all your websites or your apps, something you might have in your CRM or your media channels. So it's everyone is in agreement especially these days, that first-party data is actually increasing in its value. As people are becoming increasingly worried about their data privacy, and things like Google is now phasing out their third-party cookies. And if they've previously they played a really critical role in online marketing in the last sort of 10 years, but first-party data is now sort of going up the ranks in terms of its how valuable it is, and how useful it is for you as a business. So that's why that's what it is, if it just a quick reminder, and that's why we're sort of focusing in on it today, because I think small businesses have a really good opportunity to gather this data and use it effectively. It's just around how to do that quickly and efficiently, really. So I just wanted to make it clear before we go any further that I'm not going to give you any advice on the legal requirements of collecting and storing this first-party data that we're going to talk about. I'm definitely not a lawyer. But what I want to do is just stress to you how important it is that you understand what you can and cannot do when you are a business and are collecting and storing first-party data. So my recommendation is that you seek real specific advice on it, on what you want to do and how you want to do it. If you're not sure, I don't know if Digital Boost has done a session on it already, Anna-Marie, but if not, there is also things like this website here, the government website here, that is worth going on and just double checking that you are following the law, basically. Okay, so that was my little disclaimer.
Yes, no, that was helpful. I think we've kind of touched on compliance and things like that, but we actually haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty of it. But if any of you guys would like that, we could see if we could get somebody in to have a chat about it. That'd be quite good, I think, quite useful.
Yeah, I've been to a few chats around it, and it's super interesting, and it's really relevant, because I think it just makes you aware of how important your privacy policy is, even on your website. And what you do internally as a team, and it just is a good reflective activity to do. So I definitely highly recommend you looking at some of the government information around that.
I'll get on that team.
Sorry, I've just given you a weekend.
Hey, no.
Okay, so let's get into it. Collecting first-party data. And this is sort of the fun side of things. And today I wanted to touch on the types of first-party data that there is and ways that you can basically collect it. So I'm going to touch on behavioral data, subscription data, social data, survey data, customer feedback data, and I am slightly going to touch on customer information stored in your CRM, but I'm basically going to concentrate on the others, and then this sort of comes in more in how you use it, or what you do to use it. So that's what we're covering today for everyone. So behavioral data, let's start with that. So one great way to collect behavioral data is by using Google Tag Manager. So if you haven't got it yet, make sure that you start looking into it. So for example, Google Tag Manager allows you to implement website tags, and which allows you to automatically collect data about how people interact with your website through clicks, views, and purchases. So just to go a little bit deeper, but not get too technical, because I'm not a technical person. and this isn't I'm not a Google person, but I understand it enough to say that tags a snippet of Java code added to a website to collect data and information. So they help you to monitor your website or visitors' activities, so that it allows you to basically optimize your website. And that's what we'll talk about later on, when it's like, how do you actually use this information in Tag Manager? But Google Tag Manager doesn't actually have reporting capabilities by itself. So rather, it sends the information that it gathers and you've set up with these tags to Google Analytics for analysis. So I'm not sure if all of you are aware, but there's like a GA3 or Google Analytics 3, and there's a Google Analytics 4. And most businesses now are moving and have or are in the process of moving to GA4. And it can basically provide great insights into what your pages, which of your pages are performing well. And then with Google Tag Manager, it helps you dive a little bit deeper into some of the behaviors that you see. So for example, basic analytics tools can help you find things like real-time page views, location, device information, traffic sources, top landing pages, blog posts, etc. But to get even more value out of these insights, you need to take advantage of some of the tags that you can use in Google Tag Manager. And then you can discover things like how users navigate your site, what pages generate the most conversions, which is really important if you're selling on your website, or where website visitors are most likely to leave your page, your website. Another system or software that you can use to help gather this behavioral data on your website specifically is something like Hotjar, which gathers valuable behavior data for users on your website, because it basically can show you a map of where they go and where their mouse basically trolls through your or not trolls, but goes on your website, and how they're interacting with it. So I know lots of businesses that have put Hotjar on and got some really valuable data around things like, lots of people just sort of hover their mouse over this one area of my website, yet they don't actually push the button there. Why is that? So getting that sort of granular information and behavioral information is really important. And then if you think of it, if I go outside of a website and look at a business that has got a physical location, I know of some businesses who have put actual sensors into their business premises, their physical premises, and it helps them to track customer movements around their stores, and it helps determine their behavior while in stores. So I just wanted to give you an idea that as well as the website behavior data, there's also physical behavioral data that you can gather if you have a premises as well. So they're just some ideas of ways that you can gather the behavioral data. So next, I wanted to move on to subscription data. And it's another type of data you can collect. And what I think of as subscription data, but you could also think of it as gated content data. It's not necessarily that they're subscribing to something all the time. But lots of businesses do this in different ways, both formally and informally, from memberships to newsletters, access to guides, personalized recommendations. So what basically is happening is people give you some personal information and in return gain access to what you are offering. I'm just going to shoot to my screen. So newsletters are a very popular way or common way that you see on websites, and that people are using it to gather information or customer data. But what I am going to say to you guys is I challenge you to think about why people will want a newsletter from you. What will entice them to actually give up their, or in this case, their first name, last name, and email address to you, and what value are you going to give them back? So here, you're going to get adventures and trip tips straight into your mailbox every month. And if I was a big traveler, I would be like, yes, I definitely want that. So be very clear why people are signing up to your newsletter, and why they should be hearing from you on a regular basis. Guides are another popular method people are using. Often gating, that what people do on websites is they gate the content and ask for an email address so that they can send them the guide, and that way they're gathering their personal data, their customer data, or their subscription data. These guides can be super time consuming for a business to create. So I'm making you aware to give your customers value in these guides. So just ask your customers what it is that they actually are looking for before you go out and build a guide that you think might be relevant, but in actual fact, no one's interested in it. And you've spent all this time on something and it's not actually being used, or people aren't signing up to it. So you're not gathering that data. That's the reason why you want it. So these sort of pop-ups are usually available within your CRM system. So if you have a CRM system, usually they will have little pop-ups that you can add to your website that will gather this information for you and put it into your CRM system. So check out what it is, what you've got available already that you can add to your website that will be able to do something like this, and then create guides that are very helpful for people. Don't just put something down that's not going to be relevant to them. Another way that businesses are gathering first-party data is by using website quizzes, which are basically giving businesses a way to engage as well as gather customer data, and sometimes emails from them, but sometimes it's just customer data and a little bit of behavioral data as well as subscription data about them. These can be used by all sorts of businesses, from e-commerce to tourism. They can be as broad or as specific as you like. We have this feature in Yonder, so I can give you a metric that about 10% of website visitors currently interact with sort of a website quiz or interactive sort of help filter. So again, make sure that what you are offering your website visitors has value to them and is information that they really want. So for example, this is for the what tour is the best one for you, but I've seen e-commerce ones, which is what face cream is the best one suited to my face type. And then it takes you through a bunch of questions and gives you a suggestion. So, and again, that's gathering information on what type of users there is on your website, and it will give you the option to give them gives them the option to give you their website email address at the end of it. So moving on to social media data. Well, this is a big so it's a very full-on one. But social media data is information that social media users publicly share. And it's something that I think businesses sometimes forget is already out there. So it also includes metadata such as the user's location, language spoken, biographical data, and or shared links. So there's sort of two stages. You can see it publicly, and then you can also analyze the people that follow you on social media by noting how they interact with your posts through likes, shares, and comments. And you can start to build up a really clear idea of what your social audience is like through all this data. I don't claim, this is sort of a dashboard of an example of how you can put it all together in one place, so you can see it all in one place. This is actually from someone, a business that, a software business that any business can go on and use, called Clipfolio. And it's really worth, if you want to start building up some really powerful dashboards for your social media data, then I would suggest you go on and have a look and see what you can do for your business. But basically, it's pulling it all into one place. So as well as what's being publicly shared, you can also start pulling in what's not publicly shared and start analyzing it. And it just it saves you time. And it just means it's all in one place, and it helps you sift through it all. So as you can see there's a lot of information about your customers and how they are using and interacting with your business and social media. Sorry if I'm talking too fast or going too fast, but yeah, I will carry on. Another way that another type of data that we want to collect is, and I'll try and talk a little bit slower, is survey data.
You're fine. Yeah, you're not talking too fast.
Sometimes I get a bit excited and I just keep going. But it's another way you can collect data is basically by asking for feedback and you can do this via paper survey forms, online forms, in emails, and via other channels such as text messages. So within that survey, you can ask about your customers' demographics, opinion on a product or service, or the kind of content that they prefer. Surveys also allow you to start tracking metrics like Net Promoter Score and customer satisfaction. So they can be super powerful. You can do one-off surveys, or you can continuously send surveys to new customers as they come through your doors. So you need to consider what kind of business you are. So I can give you some examples that for tourism businesses, it's actually essential for them to be continually gathering customer data because they have new customers through their door all the time. But some of the law firms and accounting firms that we work with, they've got long-term customers that they work with all the time. So what they often do is send out a survey either 6 monthly or yearly, depending on how often they interact with them, just to double check how they're going and to make sure that they are keeping on top of any issues that may be happening. A beauty salon is another example of people that we know that use surveys, and because again they have regular customers, some come really regularly but some don't, so they survey customers every 6 months just to check in with them and make sure that they're doing an okay job. So it really depends on what kind of business you are, whether you need to do them continuously and you can be asking them every time someone comes, or they're really regular customers, so you don't want to be bombarding them all the time. You just want to ask them every so often so that you still have a bit of a handle on what they're thinking and feeling about your business. Some of my tips for the surveys is to keep an eye on your completion rates for surveys if you're sending them out. You should be achieving at least a 30% plus completion rate of surveys if you're sending them out. And if you're not, I'm just going to give you a little few tips to look at and consider. So if you're not getting a really good completion rate, then consider how many hours or days after the event you're sending them. So for example, if you're going to send your law client or a client of yours and you're a law firm survey, you're going to don't send it the day that you have, maybe not the day of the meeting that you saw them at, but it may be a couple of days after a big meeting that you saw them at, for example. So just have a think about how many hours or days after the event do you send something? And then what hour of the day do you send it? So do you send it in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening? If you know your clients, then you'll know if they're full-time working, so they're not going to open it during the day, so there's no point doing it that, but they might have first thing in the morning, they might actually be really good, or last thing at night. We know some people that send them at like 8 o'clock at night when they know that people are sitting down sort of relaxing. And then I will challenge you that if your completion rates aren't very high, to check about how many questions you're asking people. So we know, for example, that if you are sending them regular surveys, so if you're just wanting to gather from continuously asking surveys and asking people for information, then we've got a lot of businesses that have kept them quite short and sharp so that the data that they gather is just a little bit easier to understand, and that people complete all of them and not just go or drop off halfway through, because otherwise the information is just not as effective. You're better to actually change your survey after a few months if you've gathered enough information for that one or data for those specific questions, and then change it to another lot rather than putting them all into one survey. And then consider another one that you should consider if your completion rates aren't that great is in what format you're sending it. And I can give you our stats for the Yonder surveys is that we send them via emails, and our completion rates are between 35 and 50%. But when they open an email, what they see is exactly what you see on the screen. So all they have to do to start the survey is to push a button. So have a look at your surveys and see how easy is it for people to actually start interacting with our surveys. Because again, that will affect your completion rates, and you want to have and gather as much data as possible. If you're gathering them on paper, then count how many surveys and make sure you are tracking how many surveys you're actually handing out to customers and how many you're actually getting returned to you. I know one business that actually does it really well on paper is that they give the paper one out, but they also give a self-addressed envelope out as well, so that people can actually return it to them. And their completion rates, they're not particularly high, but they're pretty good for something that involves people going to the mailbox and posting it back to them. So and there are other survey softwares like SurveyMonkey, which will also give you metrics on your open and completion rates as well. So that's another way of collecting first-party data. You guys are all very quiet. If you've got questions, please don't hesitate to stop me and ask me. Now, another type of first-party data that you can collect is customer feedback data. It's a little bit like survey data, but I've broadened it, or it can be a lot broader. So as well as surveys, you can also start gathering and analyzing a bunch of comments from your websites. So via your chat widgets, or emails that are coming in from your websites, or the contact forms from your websites. You can start analyzing your phone calls and your general email inbox. And you can start gathering data, especially customer feedback data, from your customer service team. And as well as, and don't forget direct messages on social media and other online review sites that you're on. So all this feedback is valuable, both the negative and the positive. I've got on the screen here, and it's just to keep you guys interested, really, so you don't have to look at me the whole time. But it's this is a way that you can basically, businesses can capture customer feedback when someone verbally gives it to someone behind the front desk. It's just a matter of the front desk person just quickly adding it into their software. So there's heaps of ways that you can collect all this data manually through to fully automated. I know there are customer service staff that do note down things on paper, and then they keep track of the trends that are coming down, and that might be through their phones or through emails. And then I know some businesses that are using it and tracking it through their CRM systems, so that they log it automatically, and then they might tag it with a topic that they've talked to someone about. And that's where something like this thing that I've got on the screen here, this image, is just another way that you can log customer feedback and put it into a system. My suggestion, no matter how you collect the data, is to try and get as much as it in one place as possible, basically, to make it easier to analyze. So I know lots of people that use Excel spreadsheets still. And then some all the way through to who use review management software like Yonder, and some CRM systems are doing very similar stuff as well. So basically, it's up to you and how small or large your business is, and how efficient you are in things like Excel spreadsheet, or whether you need a little bit more help with analyzing this sort of analysis of customer feedback. And that's where someone like Yonder or CRM systems come in really helpful, because they can start analyzing it for you, make it a lot easier and less time consuming, if you know what I mean. So customer feedback data, super important. It's how you collect it, and make sure that you do collect it, because it's really easy to hang up the phone and not record it, or look at an email and not record it. So it's about keeping track of all those touch points for your visitors. Okay, so I've kind of covered, and I've covered it very quickly, but it is 10:30 already, so I'm on track. But I've covered how you can collect a bunch of first-party data. And it's all data that your customers have given you. And again, I'm going to say it over and over again, especially in this next part, that make sure you have permissions if you need permissions, and that you have your privacy and storage correct. But then it's like, well, you've got all this data. Lots of businesses, and you as a business, will have this data sitting there. It's just a matter of collecting it, like I've suggested that you do. Don't be scared to start with an Excel sheet to start with, or even piece of paper and pen. But then start looking very quickly at how you can automate and get this into some software that can start analyzing it for you. Because the next thing I'm going to talk about is basically how or what you can do with all this first party data. And the more insight, basically, and one of them is insights, but the more that you can get out of this data, the more effective it's going to be for your business. And probably the more you'll want to gather, and it will start snowballing, and you'll be able to see why it's so valuable for marketers, sales, managers, sort of like your whole team, and customer service teams, HR. So there's lots and lots of benefits to it. So now what I was just going to touch on before I go into it is to make sure that you have some processes in place for gathering it, because you also need some processes in place for using it. So it's very important that you keep an eye on that. So the first thing we are going to cover is website optimization. So one of the first ways that you can use this data is to improve your search engine optimization, or SEO, if that makes sense, or how your website performs. Behavioral data is great at telling you what may be stopping people from making purchases on your website, or where they are finding things difficult to navigate. So at Yonder, we've seen firsthand the power of combining the behavioral data with customer feedback data. So I can give you an example that a client of ours launched a new website a few years ago. It was a beautiful new website, all the bells and whistles. Website visitor numbers were great, yet the goal, so one of the tags that they had to set up was of conversions to actual bookings, and they were tracking this, and that actually wasn't going up in relation to the website visitors. And so what they did was then go back and look at what pages this goal was set on, and then they looked at other data sources that they had on this web page. So one of the things that they did have was a chat widget, one of those little bubbles that sit on the right-hand side there. And they were able to start going into that data and customer data and its first-party data and being able to see, okay, so what is everyone asking on this page? What were some of the most commonly asked questions? And how is this related to what's happening in our analytics, in our Google Analytics? And they were able actually to see that their issue happened to be price, that the most asked question on their page was price, yet it wasn't on their website. And it was nowhere to be seen. And it was actually 3 clicks away from it. So they were able to then change their website and make some changes on their website that actually saw a much better success rate of their conversions because of the change. So it's about using your data that you have in a way that will help your website to perform better, basically. So that was just one example. I know lots and lots of examples, and I'm sure that your own marketers will give you lots of examples of how they've used Google Analytics or Tag Manager to improve a website. But don't forget that you've got those other data sources as well that you can combine to give a broader picture. So Hotjar's another really good example of one that I've seen heat maps where people have just scrolled around a website, gone up and down it multiple times, and then they've figured out, well, what on earth are they looking for? Because obviously people are scrolling up and they're looking for something. And so it's what other data can you pull in to figure out what it is on your website that people are looking for or that are needing to make that conversion or that goal. So website optimization is one very important one to remember. Another use of all your first-party data, and this one is where I'm again going to stress the privacy things, is that businesses utilize their first-party data, and particularly email addresses that they've gathered, to do electronic direct mail marketing or EDM marketing. So if you have had people subscribe to your newsletter or guides, then EDMs allow you to reach out to targeted potential customers through your online channels to basically build personal relationships, help you generate leads, and increase your sales. So I've got I've pulled these off the website of sites that I've seen before, or some examples that I've seen, just to give you an idea that they don't all have to be the same and they can be quite different. So there can be newsletters, there can be sort of a sales sort of pitch, or there can be sort of like a deal. I've seen lots of different ways that people can do this. But again, it's just about making sure, and I'll go back to the purpose of it, is, why are people making sure that you don't lose people on your list by doing EDMs that are actually relevant to them and helpful to your business? Because basically you want to generate leads and increase your sales. But you also need to build those relationships up. So first-party data is amazing at being able to do this and do it within the law. So that's, just make sure that you have permission to be able to do these. Another use of gathering first-party data is that it makes it easier for you to segment your users into specific groups so that you can do specific targeted campaigns and make content. You can create highly personalized experiences based on your segmented audience's interests and needs. And again, this comes from a combination of using your behavioral data and your customer feedback data. And it could be your survey data as well. So it's a combination of all those data points that allows you to then create this really personalized experience and segment your audience into their really, really defined interests and needs. So all at once, your content isn't informed by guesswork, but by real customer feedback and reviews as well. So if you're using review management software or even an Excel spreadsheet, start pulling in commonly used words or phrases that people have used to describe you, or to say how great your experience was. So this is where lots of people use review management to pick up bad stuff or bad reviews, but I see it as a real valuable way of picking out words and phrases that people use to describe your business back to you, and then using that in your marketing and sales messages. So an example would be a hotel describes themselves one way, whereas everyone else is describing them as family friendly. And so all of a sudden, then they know that, and this business can see that family friendly is actually coming through in their reviews. And so they add it to their social media and marketing channels. So it's just about finding common themes. Another way, review data is a really good one to do that, but also, sorry, I forgot that I haven't clicked this up. So this is the review data. So all of a sudden, what you can do is start seeing where people are saying or what they're saying, and then be able to analyze it and understand what they're doing, and then using their words basically. Common themes in your little chat widgets on the bottom of your screen are also an amazing way to help create blog content or social media posts, because it's obviously top of mind for people that are on your website. They're asking these questions, so why not make them into some content and blog posts that gets them out there? Because if 3% of your website visitors are asking these questions, then there's a hell of a lot more people on your website sitting there that may have the same questions that are not asking them in the normal channels. But if you can preempt those questions through blog posts or content on your website, then it is super valuable. If you are surveying people, if you are surveying people, you can actually start to see what marketing and sales channels and tactics are actually working. So what you should do more of, and what you could possibly stop doing. Or again, so this one here, for example, is what are your main reasons for choosing to book with it? So again, it's choosing to book, but one of the questions that we do get asked a lot is, how did you find us? And that way they can often they'll put Google, TripAdvisor, website, yellow pages still gets asked. And then all of a sudden you've got data to show, or in actual fact, they found me there. So we know one business who was still wondering whether it was worth him putting an ad in the yellow pages, for example. So instead of him having to guess if he was actually getting any value out of putting the ad in, he asked one of these questions. But his question was, what was the one way that you found me? And no one chose yellow pages in months worth of customer data. So instead of having to use guesswork, he actually used his survey information and data and was able to stop that marketing channel. And yeah, it was very unfortunate for yellow pages. No offense to yellow pages, it might work really well for some businesses and per people. It just didn't for this business, because he had data to back it up that it wasn't. What was working really well for him was actually referrals from other businesses. So he didn't actually know that at the time, but it wasn't until he asked it through customer surveys that he was able to get that. And so he was actually able to put a lot more effort and work into building up those relationships, because he knew that that was the sales channel that was working. So that's the sort of data that is really hard to capture on a website and digitally, but if you can capture it verbally, it makes a much more powerful picture and larger picture for your business. Okay, and how's my time going? Oh, yeah, sweet. And then I've got managing your business and staff. So this is something that some businesses do it really well, and others are not so aware of the power that that data, first-party data, can do this. But it's valuable as a way to keep track of important customer metrics, such as NPS or Net Promoter Score and customer satisfaction, as well as online ratings. So if these start trending down, then this is an indication for management that customers are not happy with either the service or product. Nearly all the businesses that we work with at Yonder track the NPS score or Net Promoter Score. It's a customer loyalty and satisfaction measurement for those not too aware, and it's taken from asking customers how likely they are to recommend your product or service to others on a scale of 0 to 10. For tourism businesses, this is a great indication of how, for them, if they're getting the all-important sort of word-of-mouth marketing that they so desire. And for all businesses, it helps them to identify when loyal customers are starting to falter or parts of their business may need addressing. Benchmarking against your peers is also really interesting, as you can keep an eye on your competition, but you can also know where you are in the industry. So it's just something that a lot of management report on and keep a track of, usually on a monthly basis. Other businesses I know who use first-party data help them with staff motivation. So rewards and staff reviews they use them for. So they reward staff, or they use them if they're sitting down with a staff member and going through a review session with them. And the first-party data basically allows them to, it saves the manager's time in terms of it gives them some other information and data sources to be able to draw on to give some solid evidence and to help with difficult conversations at times. So it allows, and some technology at the moment can allow you to track when staff members are mentioned in customer feedback data, or you can keep an eye on this in your spreadsheets if you're using spreadsheets. For other ones, you can start tagging them and tracking them in that. And you can also, so you can basically track them, and you can start using the positive and negative feedback also for training purposes. So we know a couple of businesses that pull out both good and bad reviews of staff members, and then they actually take it to their meetings and they analyze it, and they sort of sit down and say, okay, what went well, what didn't, where can we improve, basically. So it's all about business improvement and making it a most amazing experience for your customers, basically. Other business we know who have used subscription and survey data to help them develop new products which resonate with their customers. So we know some businesses that have sent out surveys asking, would you be interested in if we did this or this? And then they've got feedback on that, and then they're able to go out and build some new products. We've got other businesses that actually do it. They don't actively ask their customers, but what they do is they use other data sources. So they'll use chat sources, they'll use sort of website behavioral data to sort of pick up where people are sort of asking for extra things or help, and is those extra things something that they can add to their product range. And if it is, then they will go away and maybe do a little bit more customer research and development before they will go and build it. But it all goes towards building up something that helps your business. So another example of that, and then I've just thought of it actually, is that we worked with, and it's not an innovation, but it's an addition to some of this product. We worked with a holiday park that thought they had an issue with Wi-Fi, and he was going to have to go out and improve his Wi-Fi, his whole system around his whole park. And then we were talking to him, we said to him, is it actually coming through on your reviews? Can you see that evidence that it's actually a problem? And he went through, and because they just thought it was from the reception desk because they'd verbally heard it. But once they started recording how many times they verbally heard it and how many times it came through on a review, it was actually like once, maybe twice a month, not even that. Yet he nearly went out and did a huge revamp of all his Wi-Fi. So you need to make sure that you have a lot of data. It just allows you to make smarter business decisions, not always new business decisions, but just smarter ones with this data in place. So yeah, really good idea to keep an eye on it. So I'm nearly done in a row. I've been talking lots and there's been no questions. So in conclusion, I just wanted to recap again, because I've given you, and I've talked lots and I talk fast. And I've given you lots of information. So I just wanted to recap on how you can collect first party data. And I gave you specific examples, but there's lots more out there. So don't be limited by what I've said. You can go out and all come up with your own ways to gather it. But behavioral data. So look at your Google Tag Managers and your GA4s and make sure that they've got them in place and that you're tracking what you need to track. Think about Hotjar and other software that you can use to continue gathering that information, or chat widgets, or another sort of feedback form on your website that you can start gathering customer data while they're on your website. Subscription data, so newsletters, guides, quizzes. Make sure that you are doing it legally, but that also you are gathering just the information that you need to be able to do the other steps later on, which is what I'm going to cover in a minute, which is what do you do with it, which is the EDNs and things. So just subscription data, and make sure you're giving them value in anything you do. Social data. So this is one that I think gets missed a lot. There is all your customers are out there. They're posting, they're sharing. Use that information. Go in and actually explore your customers. It's all sitting there, and a lot of it's public. And then use your dashboards and use your dashboards in a way that brings the information together in a way that you can use it effectively in your business. So what time are people shopping on your social media channels? Where are they shopping from? So get a little bit more granular with your understanding of your social media channels. Survey data. So it can be in person, it can be digital, it can be on paper. Don't be afraid. There's lots of different ways that you can do surveys. But what I was really stressing to you guys was the completion rate. If you're going to put effort into a survey, make sure that you are getting the results that you need from it. Don't be scared to change it if it's not getting the results, because you can get so much valuable information out of surveying, either continuously surveying new customers, or surveying ones that are your long-standing ones, depending on the type of business that you are. And then don't forget the customer feedback data. So all your online reviews, or the reviews that you may get verbally from people, your website chats, your phone calls, your emails, your customer service team. All this all this data is actually sitting there. It is highly valuable stuff. It's just about you creating processes and putting in processes that actually can collect it in an effective and efficient way for your business. And then if I go across to, so that was how to collect it, remember guys? And then in conclusion, what to do with it. We've just run through it. Website optimization. You can improve your website performance with all this data. Remember to combine data if you need to get a really granular look at what it's doing. EDNs, make sure they're relevant and that they're legal. Targeted marketing and sales content and campaigns. So you can get really personalized experience when you start combining your data sets and your customer data. And you can also create content that really resonates. You're using their own words to actually describe your experience or your product. Real valuable. Product innovation, so changing a product or creating new products, is something that you are able to do by using all this information again. Again, it might be that you've got it from surveys, or you might have got it from your behavioral data, or you might have got it from customer feedback and reviews. So don't be constrained by looking at just one data set. Make sure you're looking at it all. And it definitely helps you to manage your business and staff. You can start to pick up when things are going well and when things are not. So a really good example of this, guys, is NPS survey data. Once we work with tourism businesses that track NPS, and their NPSs all dropped, or their scores dropped when it was only domestic tourists, when domestic tourists first started traveling, compared to what their international NPS scores were. And it actually came down to the fact that when they looked at other data sources and things, the New Zealand domestic market had high expectations, really high expectations. And a lot of our businesses had to, they didn't scramble, but they had to work really hard to meet those expectations. And you can see that their NPS has started to their scores started to climb back up to what they were in international travelers once they realized what expectations they had to meet to bring it up to the expectations of New Zealand domestic travelers. So we thought that was just a little bit of interesting use of how NPS can sort of help you track your overall business, how it's tracking and how it's performing. So that is about it. I haven't had any questions. So I'm hoping that it was really useful for lots of people.
It was indeed. And no questions doesn't mean that, it wasn't a good session. That's for sure. Cool. I think a lot of us are also in this mode where we're just in absorption mode, and then you kind of go, okay, let me go and put some of those things into action and have a play around with it, because there was lots of calls to action during this session, wasn't there? Like just lots of opportunities to check in with your clients and then use that data, that information to kind of build and grow, which is really cool. So
and I think, as you say, it just takes time to put things in place and processes in place and collect it. And then once you start collecting, you realize how valuable it is. I think, often
that's the difference between businesses. Like businesses these days, like even some of the most creative businesses, where it seems very creative in the front, it's very interesting that most of it is data driven. Whether or not what you're creating or what you're, how you're selling your material. I mean, everything, these days, businesses are really focusing on that data and how they can use data more and more in order to grow their businesses. So even as a small business, you can collect this data and you can grow your business as well. This is what the big guys do. Data insights,
It is what the big guys do. And I think it's something that is so in reach of the small businesses. It's just about having time and processes in place to do it, and just have the confidence to do it as well.
And building it over time. Like you don't have to do everything that Letitia said today.
No, don't do
once. Like don't freak out, just try one thing first and, start somewhere and collect that data and then use it and see how it goes. And then, you can always grow upon that as time goes on. So don't feel overwhelmed. And if you need any additional support, like if there was bits and pieces there, maybe you don't have your Facebook business stuff set up, maybe it's not linked to your website, contact us and we'll help you to do that. So you can contact support at digitalboost.com.au. Where am I? What's our business called? digitalboost.co.nz. Where am I? I've left the country apparently for the long weekend mentally.
I was going to say you're going away.
Apologies. I'm not going. But that's so funny. So contact Digital Boost support at digitalboost.co.nz and we will help you to link all those things in your social media and help you to get your stuff all connected so that you can collect the data. And you can always contact Yonder and take advantage of some of their tools that they have, and they'll help you to do this kind of stuff. If it's too hard basket, just reach out to Letitia and those guys at Yonder.
Just come and talk to me. I definitely talk to a lot of businesses. It just goes in the too hard, too time consuming basket. And it's not, even if it's just as simple as getting your staff to jot down on a bit of paper, like to start with, just to start capturing it. It doesn't have to be the huge step to start with.
Yeah, I love it. I think that is just such words of wisdom in life, isn't it? It's just like don't make it so big in your head. Just get started. Get started, do something. Something is going to be better than nothing, because there's this whole idea out there of this spray and pray, and like that method just doesn't work. Look what your data is, and then have a target so that you actually know where you're going.
Definitely. And I think and so we get often asked, and I'm going to go back to a bit Anna Marie, because you said that you're a data-driven business, and lots of businesses say to me, we don't want to be data-driven, we're people-driven, like we are all about personalization. And I'm like, to get that level of personalization, you need to use that data.
That's right. I mean, I get what they're
Right.
saying, but at the same time, like if you know who your customer is and you know what they're looking for, you can personalize it. And that's how you personalize it. Is by having actual information about those people. Yeah, beautiful. I bet you do hear that a lot, because that was like a real, you know, a real kind of, that's what we say, you know, kind of thing that happened for a while. But now we're kind of, because technology has often been seen as something that takes you away from your customers. But I think the shift has been is that we're trying to create systems, create this kind of AI, create these platforms, this software that can actually bring us back to connecting with people. Yes.
Yeah, I so believe that. I think it does. I think it gives you actually a deeper insight into your people at the same time as being that personalized.
Don't be afraid of the tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, this has been a wonderful session once again. And I love having you on. I saw that you were going to be on today. I got excited because I knew I'd be walking away with a bit of knowledge that I could take on board and go forward with. And I know that's what you always deliver. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us here on Digital Boost.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Have a wonderful day, everyone. Ka kite. Have a good long weekend. See you next time. See you, Letitia. Oh, I should stop the record.